poetry reading in San Francisco, Chinatown. So Jenny's been here much longer than I have, but I've been here 40 years. So I don't remember having a poetry reading series in Chinatown. Do you? No. Okay, so we are indeed the first poetry reading series on third Saturday of each month, and we hope to keep doing this because for those of you who don't know me, I have been here 40 years, so since 1982, my dad and I started a music shop in this space. And then at age 44, I discovered that I want to pursue poetry. I sold the business in 2005, came back 2016, and wanted to establish a presence, a poetry presence in Chinatown. But it took a while. It took 7 years for this to realize, so I'm extremely happy. I want to start off this reading by reading a poem that described the old poets of Chinatown, myself being one. And in this poem, you can hear a little bit of the journey that I've gone through trying to establish a reading here. So I'm going to read the old poets of Chinatown, and while I'm reading, my friend Michael is going to pass out a little bit of wine, and if you want tea, he has tea too. And we're going to make a toast after the poem to the longevity of this reading series. Yes. The old poets of Chinatown. 5/5, the 5th of May, paddled the dragon boats, its Zhongzi by the bay. The poet had sunk to the bottom of the river. Nothing is sadder, than separation. In the town of funky old lanterns and alleys littered with cigarette butts, Lipo is but a cocktail lounge. Heightened thoughts dissipate in the porridge steam. Duck grease drip down window panes. The moans of China's progeny, their tired backs, their bloodshot eyes. Weariness squeezes the minds dry. Children open their mouths and cannot sing. Grown-ups hiss and spit in the streets. The heart is heavy, unsettling. A man treaded gently up the hill. Illness had made him gentle. He found the mail slot at the corner of my building and was about to shove a book through. I opened the door. Hello, breathless. His eyes looked even wider behind the huge glasses. A bit of rouge. We had met the day before, into the smear of blood and tear. I gave him my book, swaying in loneliness, a window into a stranger's mind that derives from 1,000 years of sorrow. Don't ask the blossoms and the leaves about emotion. Let's just carry the hangover and stagger in the carmine reverie. He told me he had a few essays to write and left. He sent me the finished work by email. But the poet had blurred into the streets of trinkets and meat markets. Sometimes brutal, sometimes gentle. How bright the moon. We are being cut down by age, and the clear sky with wine in hand, becoming the old poets of Chinatown, not knowing in heavenly place what year is this night. Live, laugh, cry, die among the sound of marchang. I would ride the wind and depart, mouths and bodies yearning to be touched. But I fear the bejeweled jade dwellings, the cold in high places. At Chinatown's one-day sidewalk sale, I put a table out on Waverly Place with my books and broadsides. Genny Lim dropped by the day before and gave me her chapbooks. Frances Chin arrived with her memoirs in a suitcase. It was a warm and sunny day. We hung out in front of Clarion. Frances met a fan of hers and struck up a lively conversation. Nellie Wong came a little later with her books too. Earlier in the day, the youth community across the street brought over some helium balloons. I tied them on the handle of a poster board. Frigid spinners were selling by the bushel down on Grant Avenue. At least that's what I heard. Pedestrians hastened their speed when passing our table. A few brave ones turned their heads toward the books for just a second, but inevitably looked the other way to catch the eye or a smile, to catch the attention of someone not interested. Poetry is sunning in broad daylight. Not interested. Vibrant and thoughtful women are ready to converse. Not interested. Are we as obscure as creatures from Mars? Those creatures might be more interesting than poets. Oh, you can't ignore us. We're here to stay. In the town that sells everything, the 5 colors blind the eyes. In the town where all languages are spoken, the 5 tones deafen the ears. In the town that relishes food, the 5 flavors coil the palate. In the town where conversation wind around the wooden stool of Sambo, where Sing Chu Wang and his wife Gilly record reading love poems to each other on their wedding day. 20 roses blooming, spring, eternal. At midnight, I scribble to the bells of the old St. Mary's, drink paper wine, becoming intoxicated. Thank you. Yeah. Let's bring to the longevity of the poetry reading in Chinatown. I need a cup of wine. Thank you. Cheers, everyone. Cheers.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year too. Sunny, drink it up. That's how we do it. Yeah, drink it up. Don't boy. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay. Oh. I want to introduce to you now Greg Pond. Greg is a board of director of Clarion, and he is the curator for this poetry series. Greg, come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out. It's great to see all your wonderful faces. First, third Saturday Poetry in Chinatown. And this will be a monthly series. And I'm just excited about this, and I'm hoping that we can bring like literary awareness and poetic celebration of cultures and different voices to the Chinatown area and to the city as a whole. So we have 2 features. Genny Lim is one of our features. She's here in house. Jenny's right here. her dog Rumi, who may be reading later also. And Tongo Eisen-Martin, poet laureate, has not arrived yet. I'm hoping he'll be here soon. But we're going to get started with some open mic readings. And I'm thinking, based on the amount of people, it looks like maybe we might be able to do about 3 to 5 minutes. So I think we can get started with our first person, and that will be Sally Love Saunders. Oh, and by the way, for all people who are reading today, I've got a little complimentary little gift. It's a very small little gift. It's just a pen. But, you know, since you're writers, I think that's quite appropriate. So, oh yeah, that's right.
Wow, this is great. Oh my gosh. It's
Yeah.
Some goosebumps. I want to tell you a bit about me. And Greg. As far as I can remember, he used to come to my poetry gatherings, which I did all over the city. And I'm coming to where he's the leader. So this is a very, very special occasion for me. And I'll be the speaker on the 15th, which I hope you'll all come to. And here is my book, Sally's Casserole, that Greg put together for me. He got hold of all my points and drop-offs during COVID. Let's take this mess. I feel like a stripper. So you'll have to tell me, because I'll lose track of time. I mean, I got a big watch, but I'll forget to look. So blow the whistle. And Clara, thank you so much for hosting this. Yeah. So these are my poems that Greg put together in a book, which I just love, and I've had a lot of fun with it. I'm going to be the feature here April 15th. So this is a poet. I'm a child who runs in to babble out the message of insight and glee. My listeners are words and paper. Will they pass it on to you as secondhand news? Poor child who stammers with flashing eyes and a loud voice, only to get tangled up in words and breath. Child, it may be many years when you've moved on that you'll be able to tell your stories clearly. Poetry, my best friend. Am I doing this? What should I do? Oh. Poetry, my best friend. I can pull you up around my ears and shield out the world. You cozy my life, giving me a fireplace when I need it. Poetry, my center. On creativity. Creativity, so many ideas flying around like colorful butterflies on the green gardens of my mind. Erect my butterfly net, my pen, chasing first one idea, then another. So many ideas fly uncaptured. I feel a poem coming on. I need to sneeze, cry, right, yes, right. Because remembering the barn at Ottawa Farm, how the barn swallows left a lot, leaving their dirty droppings. I felt like a barn lately, with friends, family, and acquaintances flying away. Flying high and off with a lot of power. I'm an empty, cold barn, in need of roosting barn swallows. Perhaps my tears will heal the crackling paint. The sun holds me in its arms, its rays stroking and comforting. But for now, I'm a cold, lonely barn. There's music from their writing. Beautiful, soothing music. The silence so moving. I'm held in mother's arms of beautiful thoughts. I, the leader, won't disturb the evening insects singing. Allowing them not to be disturbed gives them power. They don't need to be rushed, just allowed to sing with their peers. Evening concert. I'm a compulsive over poet. I carry with me all times this, with paper in it. And Lord, if I go someplace without paper or pen, I beg for it immediately. And if nobody has any, some techie place, I go in to get napkins or I get paper towels. But I cannot be without paper. That's my oxygen tank. I've written 9,000 poems so far, going strong. And I think it's wonderful that there's so many of you here that like poetry. I'm thrilled, over brimming to be part of all this. I also I'm doing a Zooming thing tomorrow with John Rhodes. And it's an open mic, and you're all invited. It's from 11 to 12:30. I have some flyers I passed around.
I put them up on the desk. I put them up on
Oh,
the
okay,
table.
good. Okay. And then I do a monthly conference call every month, the third Thursday. And I pass out flyers for that too. I hope you'll join me. I'm happiest right here with my poetry gatherings, enjoying the gems of their hearts and souls. I'm happiest like a bird in a bird bath, here at Clarion Music Center with my poetry gathering. A poem is caught in my throat, the ink on pen dry. For some reason, the words won't flow. Frozen feelings. Like a very icy day in New Hampshire. Long for the thaw of words, with gushing movement until free of what's trapped inside. What?
Two more.
Two more. Okay, I'll pick two long ones. I feel a poem coming on. I feel like the ocean curling into itself, preparing to lunge and splash, covering all roads nearby. I feel a poem coming on. My back is arched up like a cat, ready to hiss and spray. I feel a poem coming on. Soon there will be angry cloudbursts of rain words, drenching words, plenty of rain words. I feel a poem coming on. Soon, very soon. Poem, ready to be born, comes at its own time, like a baby ready to be born. I must not stop poetry struggling to be born. When water breaks, pen and paper needed. Do not absorb a poem. No, do not abort a poem. All screaming and kicking poems must be given life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sally. Our next reader will be Cesar Love.
Need a class in this. So Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Clara. And I'm really happy to be here. I want to say thank you, Chinatown. I'm doing a series of tribute poems to Li Po. I'm doing translations of translations. I do not read classical Chinese, but it's interesting. Long before I was writing poetry, I was actually drawn to classical Chinese poetry. I would go to the library and check these books out and read them and just kind of like, wow, just be kind of blown away. So now I'm back to that. Well anyways, I'll shut up, I'll just read my poems. In Search of Li Po. You wrote many poems of faraway friends. I like to imagine I am one of them. When you travel, the two of us mail each other poems. When you are in town, the two of us are raucous poets in the tavern. We order rounds, we curse the hack riders who get government jobs. We stagger to the street and toast the moon. I do not read your language. Translations of your poems leave me thirsty, leave me lonely. What I seek in them, I do not find. Like you, my friend, whom I long to chance upon at the corner bar. Your poems are a jug of wine that I cannot open. Promise me a corkscrew, my friend. Toss it to me over the ocean. And this one's called Moonlight at Noon, and it starts with the epigram that you probably recognize from Li Po. The moon, my shadow, and I make three. I would bake on this planet if not for the moon I invited. She agreed to let me keep her tucked beneath my blouse, her cool face against my belly. I lounge in her quiet. I swim in her well. I bloom in her sanity. The moon brought me a friend, one who used to follow me. She mimicked my every movement. At first she flattered me, then she mocked me. Finally she ran away. I screamed at her, "Come back here." I tried to put a leash on her, but she was too smart. I threw a plum at her. Of course, she threw one back at me. We did this for months. Then the moon told me her name. And this is a translation of a translation. The title, you'll find in the books, is called Alone Looking at the Mountain. Birds fly by. They overlook my breadcrumbs. Clouds float by and whisper to themselves. I'm alone in this landscape. Only the mountain has been here longer than I. Only the mountain joins eyes with me. And this is my translation of Jade Stepp's lament. On the balcony I waited. It was very late when I removed my heels to descend the jade staircase. Or maybe it was very early as my silk stockings became soaked with dew. I curled in my chamber behind my beaded curtain. There the autumn moon found me and showed to me the snow melt of persimmons. I have one more. The title is usually Thoughts of a Quiet Night by Li Po, and I'm calling the title Night Visitor. Frost on the sidewalk, frost on the fire hydrant, frost on my sleeping bag. I reach to touch autumn's ice, then realize it is moonlight. I greet the familiar lamp who hovers above the street sign. She quiets my mind with thoughts of home. Okay, thank you very much.
Yolanda Capsalco. Yolanda.
Yes, you can, so I have 2 poems I'm letting out them as I said. Are we at risk of becoming another Nazi Germany? First, let me make it clear, I completely support the Swedish pedagogist, author, Jean Piaget, who in the book, The Moral Judgment of the Child wrote, children embodied altruism in society. Yet in a community meeting for small temporary cabins for the homeless, several speakers, mostly Anglo-Hispanic, said they don't want the homeless in the schools or children attend. A few days later, I remember reading that under the Hitler reign, women were deemed fit for Kinderkurs and either garden or Zimmer. Women were deemed fit for children, kitchens, and either garden or bedroom. Those were the roles Nazi women were deemed fit for. 2, I thought how horrible the communities in San Francisco pit children against the homeless, against the elderly. How are children going to embody the altruism of society? The main complaints were that children shouldn't have to witness people using drugs. 3, I remember asking a grandmother in projects how her granddaughter was doing. She replied, quote unquote, keeping it together. 4, the targeting of drug users has been a tool of the U.S. government for decades. It started under then President Richard Nixon, who in early 1970s implemented the War on Drugs, which targeted hippies and African American drug users. While these 2 groups were active in the struggle for the U.S. to get out of Vietnam, those hippie and African Americans used drugs, quote, to keep it together, unquote, to keep their minds and bodies healthy. How many of them were veterans? Were our veterans? 4, I think a World War II poem, First They Came for the Homeless. And I said nothing because I wasn't a Jew. Now it's first they came for the Jews, first they came for the homeless. And this other poem, I didn't give it a title, but I read internet news through my phone. Yesterday, I read that North Korea, its people are starving. From needing 2 million something or other quantity of food to lacking 500,000, some measuring figure from 4 quarters to 1/4 less than North Korea needs to feed its people. The news article says that the first time starvation was imminent was after the fall of the Soviet Union, when Russia could no longer supply the necessary foods to North Korea. The article also says that North Korea is using its money to build up its military equipment. Just like the United States administration, which is fueling military aid, prolonging a war against the formerly and present communist countries. Article also says opponents of North Korea policies are not supplied food or heating products in the below zero weather. The voodoo tech media immediately points the finger at the communists, at the former communist countries. They never mention, except via pro-socialist press, that under communism in Cuba, people are housed. What's going to be the outcome? like African American World War II, deceased vet Nelson Perry Road, in the publicity group discussed book, The Future is Up to Us. That is, and so what the future is up to us. El futuro está en nuestras manos. El libro ha sido traducido al español. So you can please order that book via Amazon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yolanda. First, I want to give out the pens, Thomas pens for readers.
Oh.
Your choice of,
Oh, they're all so
there.
pretty. Oh, I'm gonna take red.
Okay. And Yolanda, you have and Cesar. You can choose one as well. Excellent. Okay. Well, good people, we have come to our first feature of the afternoon. First, I just want to mention, if anyone has any cell phones, you might want to just put it on, mute or turn it off or something like that. Okay. Our first feature of the afternoon will be Genny Lim. Genny Lim is a recipient of the Penn, Oakland, Reginald, Lockett, and Berkeley Poetry Festival Lifetime Achievement Awards. She was San Francisco Jazz Poet Laureate 2016 to 2018. Her award-winning play, Paper Angels, has been produced throughout the United States and Canada and China. She's author of 5 poetry collections: Winter Place, Child of War, Paper Gods and Rebels, Cra, La Morte del Tempo, and co-author of Island, Poetry and History of Chinese Immigrants on Angel Island, winner of the American Book Award. Genny Lim has collaborated with numerous jazz musicians, including Max Roach, Jon Jang, Francis Wong, Marcus Shelby, and Del Sol String Quartet. Please, big.
Thank you, Clara, for arranging this series. This is historic, and this place is an historic landmark. I remember coming here like 30 years ago, was it? When you had concerts down here, you had world music concerts, and I would hear Indian raga music, all kinds of music from all over the world, and she had all kinds of world music instruments. I used to love to come in here and marvel at all the wonderful, amazing, exotic instruments that I had never seen in my life. So Clara Sue is a pioneer. A real patron of the arts in Chinatown. If not for her, I'm so glad you discovered poetry, because we might not be having this series. So I'm glad you discovered poetry, and you're a fine poet. So thank you very much, Clara. And I want to start with a little song, because I don't know what came first, music or poetry. Sound came first, and I believe music was always there, and the sound of the drums and the sound of the spheres. So I'm going to start with a song that was composed by my teacher, who passed away 6 years ago. He's a Ladakhi Buddhist Lama, Sonam Kunga. And when he died, he went into a coma for months. And then I got a call from his nephew and said that he's not doing well. He was the retreat master for the nuns, and he didn't snap out of it. And I said, well, what is the monastery doing about it? He said, nothing. I said, how can they treat him this way? He was the retreat master. And lo and behold, he just one day snapped out of the coma, clear as crystal, his mind. And his nephew called me, and I talked to him, and I said, "Do you remember me?" He said, "Of course." You know, he was like he had always been. So I imagine they knew what they were doing. He was just in a deep meditative state, which we thought was a coma. So this is a song to wish all of the beings, sentient beings that have come and traversed, made this journey and passed away. We have had so many who have passed away, and so that they can be reborn in Sukhavati, the Pure Land. There's been so much violence in the world, I just feel like we need to pray for these souls and spend a moment thinking about who they were, what they meant to us, and our loss. De wa chen yi shin kam na gon bo o pat me pa shu da chap mon nam nam da pe de wa chen u ki wa shu o mani de nei hum o mani de nei hum o mani pe nei hum o mani pe nei hum. In the pure land of Sukhavati abides the Lord Amitabha. By means of this, our pure-hearted prayer, may we all be reborn in Sukhavati. Since everybody has mentioned the ancient poets of China, I'm going to start with one for Chu Wan, a revolutionary of ancient times who fell into disfavor with the ruling emperor, and so they banished him, and he committed suicide jumping into a river. And so he was so loved by the people that they were throwing these jung into the water to feed the fishes so that the fish wouldn't devour him. And so every year, at a certain time of year, we make these what are called Chinese tamales, jung and moon cakes, and to celebrate him. They say Li Po, drunk with wine, jumped into the river to embrace the moon. This must be true because at the old Chinatown watering hole named after Li Po, drunkards lose their minds and toast his fame. Why get banished for speaking out of turn? Why be ridiculed for someone else's crimes? A poet is not a politician or a peddler hawking his wares. He's not a fisherman who floats with the tide. Just east of where the Milo enters the Shan, families now row their boats, their dragon boats, and children throw balls of rice wrapped in bamboo leaves to stay your hunger. You who never hesitated to tackle the most difficult problems. Did you really think you could bury worldly sorrows inside the stomach of a fish? Boy, that flashlight was a good idea. I should make bigger fonts. Okay, this one is, this one. It's a little sad, so I'm going to start with that. I don't want to bring you all down too much in the end. This is The Last Dance. For the mass shooting victims of Monterey Park and Half Moon Bay. After the mass shooting, families were left to weep alone in their nightmare beds of despair. Some froze, some scattered, some ran like rabbit and deer. When the hunter pulled the trigger, they thought it was staged, fake, because he just looked like an ordinary man, like someone's grandpa, neighbor, uncle, grocer, or church member. Not some ex-con soldier, racist, white supremacist, drug dealer, serial killer, postal worker, or gangbanger. No, not this time, no. Just another disgruntled worker, jealous ex, misfit refugee loner, hiding behind a ski cap and shooting point blank at the stunned faces with endless deadly rounds to annihilate the American dream. The ballroom was filled with smiling couples in sparkling dresses, fine suits, and shiny dancing shoes to ring in the new year of the rabbit. But the hair never had a chance. For it was the tiger's last hunt, and the dancer's last dance. Aya, how could this happen? Dimgaya, why? And the second hand pulls the trigger and tightens its grip on its power over life and death. It was the loner's one chance, the loner's last-ditch attempt to avenge the broken dream, to close the gap between love and hate, anger and fear, to get that rush that only death brings, to end the war within. Never again, again and again, the pundits, politicians, preachers, and media swear. Ayah, not again, cry the people, horrified by the blood streaming on the dance floor, the high heels frozen mid-beat, blood-stained dresses, suits, and blank stares. And yet another hand points a gun, squeezes the trigger again and again, pulverizing heart's chest, lungs splattering work shirts and jeans, in a dark river of blood streaming from the gaping slack mouths frozen in dirt and gravel, anonymous until their names would be released on the evening news, along with cutaways to sobbing families, to cameras panning across candles, flowers, Buddhas, and crucifixes mounted on the altar of names in the night of endless sorrows. There's no time to grieve, because another hand has already tightened its grip on yet another loaded gun to expose one more time the thin degree of separation between life and death. There are too many hands cheating fate, too many hands claiming murder as the ultimate equalizer. I wonder if even the Grim Reaper is tired of his workload. Claiming death, is dirty work. Though some maintain it is the right of the people to kill, that possession is 9/10 the law, and the law of man is the law of the land. To them I say no. Your gun is not right, nor is a bullet justice, nor suicide freedom. When the dancers stepped onto that dance floor with their partners, little did it matter if they were 75 or 25 years old. They would be dancing 2 by 2 around the moon, two-stepping among the stars, skirts fluttering in midair, heels light as feathers, waltzing hand in hand with joy across the Milky Way, like the cowherd and the maid, as if it were their last dance. Because every moment lived is precious, and it matters not how long you live, but how. This one is a prayer for Jasper, that little boy that was struck by a bullet on I-80. He died by sniper fire. Fog and bombs, I-8880, and virile gauze that shrouds your dimpled cheeks, frozen out of time. But you are still alive, dreaming. You are Superman, with your proud muscles invincible as the tricks of scary monsters. If you return now, your mother can stop burning incense, paper money, and ghost palaces for your afterlife, and your smile will rise from the ashes of your picture in time for now your 3rd birthday. You will awaken in time for another spring of plum blossoms billowing over sidewalks as you push through the hourglass of childhood to forgive the world its darkness as we enter a new year. This is all. Thank you. Waiting. This I wrote around the time of the passing of Larry Getty and then Jack Gershon. I'm waiting for the war of the end of the world to be over and for the proclaimed virtues of capitalism to expand eligibility to all tiers beyond the 10%. I am waiting for this pandemic of violence to surrender hatred to death and for the first cherry blossoms of spring to amass its beauty and banish the sinister hands that would bludgeon and chop the beloved branches off the trees of life that give refuge to camp survivors in Jadetown. I am waiting for Ferlinghetti and the rest of my white brother and sister beats, Ginsberg, Corso, Kerouac, Whaling, Kaufman, de Prima, and Hirschman to howl in unison from whatever streets they might happen to be inhabiting in the 6 realms of North Beach, where poets spring out of cafes like Dungeness crabs from nets at the busy bay waters of Bohemia, where I was born next door to the old intersection of the arts on Union Street, 6 blocks from city lights, where I spent childhood days reading Zen and learning insurrection from poetry that rescued me from the anonymity of conformity and nationalism. I am waiting to be inspired by the living and not the dead, but the dead seem more alive than the living these days. I am waiting for the 8 immortals like Liu Dongbin and Gao Guji to awaken me from the doldrums of quarantine so that I may search the elixir of truth to save my soul. And I am waiting for the day when the sun will burn the consciences of ordinary minds and ignite the flame of love in their hearts as the ultimate act of patriotism. I am waiting for Chinatown to rise from its eclipsed shadow of shattered windows and rusted walks and to savor my first bow of Zhou Wantan like a phoenix rising out of the comic book strip pages of old Master Q Lo Fuji to set the world right and stomp on that corpse of ignorance with my dragon thunderbolt and lasso of fire. I am waiting for the day I stop being invisible and start being seen. I'm waiting for all the gungungs, papas, and yuns, brothers and sisters to stop being murdered and attacked by random xenophobia, but I can't find the strength because a breaking heart makes no sound. I'm waiting to catch my breath because English words keep spitting racial epithets behind my back in broad daylight as if I couldn't hear, as if the dust blowing from the brutal wheels of life could crush time. America in the day of coronavirus. My fellow Americans, I'm sheltering in place as of today. It's a simple revolution to resist the terrifying prospect of being a canary in the coal mine of your virus. You can scream or shout, wave your medical degrees, PhDs, or citizen papers in their faces, but nobody will come to rescue you from the shape-shifting law of xenophobia, not Jesus, nor Krishna, nor Buddha, nor God. Money is the grand wizard in greed, the trickster in a 3-piece suit happy to make you his victim. No matter how much gold he has, he will double the size he needs. You may think it's a little too late to avenge the Indian killers who wiped out the Osage for a tiny rainbow of petroleum on a rippling creek. I just soon scalp the plastic head of the snake to avenge the Sioux at Standing Rock for reasons too numerous to count, from the Battle of Little Bighorn and Wounded Knee to the Dakota Access Pipeline. I am standing in the shadow of the moon with no refuge as the earth slips further and further into the abyss. 150 years and 8 generations of yellows migrating the lonely highway of opportunity on this godforsaken mountain to carve our identity on the face of the white ghost, thinking to trade poverty for hope, to wind up in debt and deportation for crossing the ocean in search of the elixir to unlock the American dream. They jumped ship, dug the Central Pacific, dredged swamplands, and scoured toilets. But no amount of incense could ward off the devil of despair. No amount of ritual could ease the memory of a Chinaman's bones tossed into a frigate ship back home like a sack of dried fish. I am counting the years we've racked up in silent servitude to your random acts of violence. I'm counting the miles of my mileage plus to begin my journey back to the chrysalis of childhood. It's a simple revolution to release the grip on my 135-year-old ancestral neck and grandfather Yanhua's deportation, a vanished grandmother left behind whose name I never knew or will know. We are what we've become, and who can change that? The past and the future are bequeathed to us in the flesh and bones of our sons and daughters. Time is the train our fathers built and the train that left our mothers behind to become widows, persona non grata. No one shipped the bones or ashes of the 50 or so Chinamen massacred at Rock Springs back to China. Their ghosts are still mining the hills. You can see them on a cold winter night with their pickaxes frozen in their blistered hands. No one told them there was no such thing as death. Our fathers taught us to fear our shadows, not knowing that all journeys continue without beginning or end. But our mothers taught us to survive and to know that each moment we experience is eternal. To know that each moment is a moment for liberation. Our women showed us how to fly, knowing that the center of gravity is within us. No matter where we fall, they taught us to wait and listen inside kitchens with calloused hands and feet, inside simmering pots of domestic certitude, inside safe houses, traffic houses, drug houses, inside ivory walls of academia, city halls, and polished corporate boardrooms, inside the ticking time bombs strapped to our loins like tracking devices on birds of prey. They taught us to know when our hour arrives and to seize the moment. I am sheltering in place for the long haul. It's a simple revolution to resist the terror of defeat for our sons and daughters. If the canary doesn't sing, know it's you who are lost. Maybe we need a little break. Okay, I'm going to do this for the earth. And I want to honor our Native American brothers and sisters, especially the unsung saxophone player Jim Pepper, who is caught in Muskogee Creek. And this song that he learned, I think, from his grandfather. It's a song sung during a vision quest. Wichita give me ra, hora nickel, hey nay, hooray. Water spirits springing all around my brain makes me feel glad that I'm not dead. Wichita give me run, hora nickel, hey nay, no way. Water spirits spinning all around my head makes me feel glad that I'm not dead. We all come from water, and that's why the sea has come for us. We all come from the sea, and that's why the sea is coming for us. From the sea we wandered with every step, with every scrawl of map and stone, with every shipwreck, anchor and compass. Like a wounded bird, she swoops and dives, her breasts rising and falling, her lapping tongue ready to receive us, her salt ready to absorb us. She will retrieve, like a lover, what is lost. With a breath of winds and sunsets, her potter's hands will shape the soul of water to take back what she will, yielding and unyielding, liquid and pure, servant, master, dissolving matter to collect her dues. Drop by drop, inch by inch, border to border and wall to wall, coral and reef, flesh and bone, birth to death, metamorphosing, black brown, yellow, white into blues. Sweet river of night, spill over the day with your bright red orange flames. Let the blood of paradise scorch the roofs, treetops, and our desperate hearts. It's no illusion the city's on fire from within. Wong, god of war and poets, after your star-hopping binge with the cowbird's daughter, please beg King Yan, the god of death, to postpone our destruction. Put on trial mankind's failure to end war and disaster should result in a murder conviction. If the snake and the peacock can bury the hatchet, one crawling on his belly, unable to see the light, the other rising to heights without self-reflection, buried in bitcoins and profit margins with heads in their sand, there might be some accountability in this story of two worlds, history and allegory. But poetry isn't poetry and words aren't words. A pigeon pecks at crumbs of meaning in a homeless camp where a dog sleeps by a woman in a bed of cardboard and dew. A block away, Chinatown takes off her dress of corrugated metal and plastic like a rejected bride, ashamed of her body. There must be a truce in the city, the sounds unleashed in the throats of chickens about to be butchered and children masked and shuttered behind sobbing walls should break the heart of any soldier or politician. Lights from the empty offices of skyscrapers flicker like stars, though the fortress of illusion crumbles. I hear a mother's heart beating in me. There must be dreams for the sky to become real. There must be a boat for the wind to carry memory, and a God to whisper the names of the dead, to whom death means nothing. Sweet river of night, still over the bay, with your bright red orange moon. I'm still here. It's a new year. It's no illusion. We're still here. I think I'm gonna end. I want to bore you all. Leave us with who leaves home? Who leaves home? Who leaves behind all that one loves, everything dear to one? Are immigrants made or born? Like migrating geese we come to seek a better life, to escape war and poverty, to carve from the wind a vision of a new life, a new world where the promise of a future can fulfill the mirage of freedom and belonging. Who can say that the wind does not belong to the sky? Who can say that the land beneath our feet is not ours to keep? Who can say that the air we breathe is not our right to breathe? From time immemorial, people have journeyed to follow the seasons, to seek greener pastures like the sheep that graze on summit pastures. When there's war, we migrate. When there's no work, we migrate. When there's little to eat, we migrate. We who love our homeland. We who must leave family and everything behind. Are immigrants made or born? Who can say that the wind does not belong to the sky? Who can say that the land beneath our feet is not ours to keep? Who can say that the air we breathe is not our right to breathe? Thank you.
Thank you, Genny. That was when you get a pen.
You should get 2 pens.
There won't be
Look,
any
reading.
left for the readers.
Wow, that was wonderful. Boy, there's a couple of seats here. If anybody wants to put up here.
Do you want me to go in front of you so I can move the chair out of the way? Sitting there.
We have quite a few people on the list here, but if anyone else wants to sign, some Karen's here. Anyone else wants to sign up? We'll just try to squeeze people in. We may have to, cut it down to like a 3-minute, one poem thing. But certainly, if you made an effort to come down here, we certainly want you to be able to read if you like.
There's one seat in the front row. So
there's
anyone
one
here.
I think I'm taking up 2 seats.
Some seats
there.
are opening up.
There's one here.
Oh, there are 2 seats in the front row.
Does anybody want to sit the seats here?
Sit in the front row. Good.
Does anybody else want to sign up?
We follow the meeting.
We'll go to the front row. Okay.
Anyone else want to read?
I signed
Okay. Sure.
I signed up.
You did it, all right. All right. Huh? Oh, sure. Oh, quite a few. All right. Next person up. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, and all other people. Next up, we will have symphony. Symphony. All right.
That way's fine.
It's just fireworks, it's okay.
There's a couple of seats here as well. If anybody wants to sit down.
There's more wine and tea.
Hi everyone, I'm Symphony, and it's an honor to be here. This is going to be my first open mic doing poetry, and this is a song, poem thingy I wrote, spoken word piece. It's about my brother. My brother is currently incarcerated, and I didn't want to deal with the pain of that until a few months ago I wrote this poem to kind of process what happened. And the poem is called Shooting Stars. We grew up with one another. You were the rock that kept me strong during long nights of violence in an unsafe environment. I turned to you for support when everything was falling apart. Tried so hard to be there for you too when you lost your way in the darkness. And I don't know if I'll ever see you again while you're trapped behind those prison's walls. So many mistakes you made, my brother. And I couldn't save you from yourself. Your demons were too big for me. And I was too weak. And you were too stubborn. You never listened to reason. And I was too weak, too young to see you were in crisis. Now you've gone away to a faraway place. Will I ever see you again? My brother? My brother. My brother. Do you understand the enormity of what you did? Our mother cried so many tears because of what you did. Could even speak to you for 3 years. Stop blaming everyone around you for what you became. Now you've gone away. Will I ever see you again, my brother? My brother. Quietly, we became undone by our demons and turned into shooting stars. Always by your side, it was you I admired. But now you're a shooting star behind prison walls. Undone by our demons, we both were shooting stars. But only one of us recovered. Only I recovered. Do you understand how ashamed I was of myself? Couldn't tell anyone about what you did or about the place you went because I felt so guilty, so responsible for what you became, that I couldn't protect you the way you did from the monster that dwelled in our childhood. Despite my anger, I'm still here for you, waiting for you. Toda mi vida, all of my life. Thank you.
Get a pen.
It's so cool. Here, I want it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. Okay. Well, we've got a lot of people here, and thinking that we could hopefully try to keep this 3 minutes, maybe. Hopefully. So we've got next up. We will have JD followed by Blood Flower, and then I believe is that Leanne's son? Leon's son. Oh, wonderful. And then after that we will have our other feature. So next up is JD.
Just walking around Chinatown taking photos, and I walked into a beautiful situation here. I didn't know it was another night, so it's awesome how the universe works like that. Cool. I'll do 2 poems. She's the goddess of war, so of course I couldn't afford to drop my sword on the floor and expose my torso. I decoded the Morse codes recorded in horoscopes, probably not the prettiest picture, but honestly, let's forego all that astrology, more so apologies. Let's not approach love like a lottery, it's pottery. You gotta be gentle and willing to get your hands dirty. Are you open to being broken and getting lost in the journey, because that's the cost of sincerely falling in love with your person? And I know that sounds truly, but truly that's the trend. You'll be falling for hella long, and it'll start to feel like flying, and your body won't know until you hit the cement. Let's not pretend the situation is sweet. We're not 16, but I hope the 16 don't add too much care to your steps. Listen, I'm not saying to step forward with care. I'm saying step forward and dare. Thank you. You got me stepping on my laces and got my heart piece banging against my chest harder than a bass gets. It's quite silly how my knees get weak. Every single time I hear you speak, my being, it feels at peace. When you happen to be flashing your teeth, it's like my troubles, they didn't matter to me. I was just happy to be at that specific frame, and at that very time, fortunate to claim that I've seen God's greatest design. And let me bring about and remind you and I, we're just barely friends, so it creates no sense why this flame in me burns intense. My conscience recommends my heart not to complain. The element is keeping me warm and keeping me dry from rain. And if this flame sustains, shit, I'm thinking just let it be. I set my defenses down and let her get the best of me. And it all started with the crush, and by the end of the day, I pray my heart doesn't end that way. And I know this sounds hella weird, but I had this beautiful dream of you, like taking a bite of a strawberry on a beach, the sun at its peak, your hair was dancing with the breeze, the scenic view was incredible. If only my lips could switch place with that red fruit. Right, this way we could get to communicate and you could taste this feeling I've been concealing since I met you. Let's take the time to connect views so we can open portals for this feeling to step through. And I've been practicing all this in front of a mirror so I can say this in front of you. And I'm saying to myself, boy, you must be on some heavy medication. Right, to think a woman of her caliber would pay attention and set aside a weekend in her calendar so we can view the sunrise in the city, but really, that's like Excalibur, right? Difficult to pull off when her heart is as hard as a stone. Her friends claim you're just a name she'll take out of your phone. Plus the thought of building a sandcastle out of the sands from her hourglass is just something she wouldn't condone. And I'm telling her, sweetheart, like love is not meant for the weak heart. Love is vision impaired, so it's our part to seek hard. And we're a victim of fear. And I'm speaking specifically, being acrophobic, that's an issue, because love is heavenly, so keep your head up as you enumerate every step with me. Let our past forget us, let it pass and just let it be. To say the least, everything was just meant to be. So can I say my piece before you say peace? Thank you.
Next up will be Bloodflower. I believe is going to grace us with some music.
Some people don't believe anything. Hi everybody. I'm Bloodflower. It's nice to be here. Hey Tongo. How the heck are you, man? What's new? All right. I'm nocturnal, so like this is like a dream. Because by like this time of the afternoon, I'm usually, wrapped in the arms of Morpheus. Not so bad, really. But yeah, daylight is highly overrated. You see, on any given day, I'm a soft machine. You see, on any given day, I'm a golden sardine, you see. I'm start to roam when the sun sets on fire. I don't have any desires at all, but the women of Mission Creek give me the sign of the open eye. Who am I to deny anything that runs with it? And if I am a tree, then I can bend a tree. And if I can bend a tree, then I can bend time. And if I can bend time, I can undo time. And if I can undo time, then I am time. The more I push the world away, the more I feel at home. The more I push you away, the more I feel the love. Like all fallen angels, I suffer the sin of envy. I hold the worlds that I created in the palm of my hand. When the time comes, and no one knows when the time really comes, I let that world fall from the palm of my hand and watch it dissolve like a pearl a glass of fortified wine. And if I can bend time, then I can bend me. And if I can undo me, then I can undo time. And if I can undo time, then I can bend time. And if I can undo time, then I can undo me. Say the river of Mission Creek. Morning star kindly passed me by. I prefer to be wrapped in the silver strands of Luna. I'm pursuing a darkness that's within the darkness. I'm pursuing a silence that dwells in the silence. Another day in paradise. Thank you. It's so nice to see everybody. Thanks. I'm trying to be back here next month. So I'll be Thursday night. I'll be at Noise Bridge, 8 p.m. with my noise making friends and the videos and stuff at 272 Cap. This Thursday night, you all want to check it out. I see you there. Have fun. Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Next up will be Leon's son. Blood flower? Blood flower, you got it.
Oh, shoot. I almost forgot my pen.
Do that.
Oh, wow. Shoot. You know something? Wow, yeah. Perfect. Check it out, man. The pen is mightier than the sword, they say. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clara. Thank you, Chinatown. Thank you, everybody.
I'd like to be here and try out my first time to read it in public. I'm basically a visual artist, actually. I'm just trying out writing. I've been in Genny Lim's class for a number of sessions. So here goes. It's based on my immigrant experience, basically. Wall of sadness. The great wall my ancestors built meanders over the landscape like a lost serpent, searching for a reason. Severed many times, it always managed to reconstitute itself, if not on land, then in our minds. Never succeeding in keeping the barbarians out, it only managed to keep us in, smug in our greatness, locked in an identity that feeds on itself. Built by captive labor, it is a testament to human suffering. It is the great wall of sadness. The wall of sadness surrounds my garden. It followed me across sands and oceans, the spirit of ancestors embedded in its grave stones. I have not known a time without this wall. I have only imagined what's on the other side. Is there another garden? Does the wall keep out the unhappiness of the world and unhappiness from the past? Can happiness survive in isolation? I was born in a new era, but lived in a place walled in by sadness. My father's house was like a clock, complex mechanisms ticking away inside, but on its face, always the right time. From my perch by the window, I watched people walk about in the street below. Where are they going? And where are they coming from? If I could be down there, where would I go? As the sun's rays entered the back window and traced its path along the wall to the front, I often felt like crying. In the other room, notes from my mother's piano settled around my shoulder like a cloak of melancholy. A wall of sadness runs through my garden, severed several times, it has managed to follow me across sands and oceans. The spirit of ancestors still embedded in its cold gray stones. They stop to watch me as I work. I invite them to jump off, touch their feet into new soil. I stay quiet and let them have their say. Seeing my ferns and lavender, my red maple next to bamboos, they make the branches and leaves nod in approval. In time, the ancestors became quiet and settled in the new home I made for them. Today, only remnants of a wall of sadness sit in my garden. It had followed me across sands and oceans, but seems to have stopped here. Its bricks worn and crumbling like an ancient ruin. Between the fallen rubble and weeds, old memories and new dreams mingle and intermarry. The ancestors have gone on. November rains bring new colors, sadness washed into the ground. But out of sadness comes wisdom. What's left of the wall is a monument to the past. Free now, the garden emerges into a new wildness. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. All right. Well, ladies, gents, and everyone else. Our second feature was born in San Francisco. He's an educator, an organizer, who was taught at detention centers around the country and at the Institute for Research at Columbia University, where he earned his bachelor's and master's degrees in African American Studies. He's the author of 4 books, including Heaven is All Goodbyes, which won a Penn Oakland Award, American Book Award, California Book Award, and National California Booksellers Association Poetry Book of the Year in 2018. His latest, Blood on the Fog, was named one of the best poetry books of 2021 by the New York Times. It is my honor, my pleasure to present the 8th and current Poet Laureate of San Francisco, Mr. Tongo Eisen-Martin.
A lot of God can happen in 3 seconds. Not much heaven though. Here is a man before a fight. A leave me alone type character, emerging from the penniless death of a one-way street fiction, a fancy way of saying I'm gonna make it even if I have to drive backwards. All I have is chord changes and 1,000 backhands. Driving the street like I'm choking it. Car full of nephews, hasn't been a sun since November, and there hasn't been a street I can't choke to death. This city better back down. You see this gun on the table? And something about staring until it all feels stable. Why wouldn't I protect everyone on my death sleep late? My son better be quick. My daughter better shoot first, because we fall for no one. We fall for nothing. Okay, the first thing you'll feel is the heat. This lady would tell me, trying to tell me about possession. Drink life need is what I mostly hear, and most of the world leaves me alone. To breathe smoke like a giant, to go to jail every once in a while when the genocide kicks up in late May, when politicians have too easy a time, I'm gassing backwards out of one-way street in honor of myself. And in honor of you, if you understand the nature of the world. And how long I've been just like my father, a real resemblance as the anxiety of the neighborhood. This is a crossroads or a crossroads narrative. So much crossroads, people get in the habit of turn back only to find themselves remembering me, but not my last words, the man before a fight, so feel the heat. But there's nothing to keep in mind, there's nothing to remember, really, there's nothing to be. There's just this moment and another, Instead, then it all becomes stable, then the table legs go fuzzy and Friday's an unfamiliar face peeking in the window. It's cool to panic for a second. Composure is wasting on your worst enemies. People are marked on that sidewalk. You the only thing life-size. Everybody knows it's in the wire hanger empire. When the blood stops walking, that feeling isn't father enough to be permission to fold. You better swing one more time. You know, that father of yours rose from the grave and said, just give me 5 more minutes. He said, running water is a myth. It's us who are running up, down, and all alongside this water. And people don't rise from the grave, they're not laid down either. It's us who flip all around their bodies, so beware when the people around you all look like they're about to jump, it might be your time. You feel the heat. And when 4 walls demand to be 4 walls and the earth outside, mutes don't panic. Don't try to recreate the earth outside. Don't tell jokes to yourself. Don't even talk disrespectfully to the 4 walls. Instead, unclench your fist and walk away. There might be heaven if you understand the nature of the world. I talk facing away from the dead. They replace me with the change in my pocket. A penny that's yet to be invented. They say you have to know how to cut a throat on the way to cutting a throat. After sleeping on a mattress made from 2 garbage bags of clothes, I became content with the small gestures of plantation fires. I mean, playing with couch ashes, I realized how weird the universe was. It exists in so many places, man. So many random things that interrupts me while I'm trying to dream. Like your clay correspondence, Lord. Hey, to be transparent, I have 20 books next to a bullet like an old man giving advice at the beginning of a revolution. I've really done it, Lord. Explored the mumbles of my mind, explored what's naturally there, and I found no brainwashing. I found Africa, Lord. I have a future. It takes place in the diasporic South. I have morning possessions, modern militancy. I mean, windows to the South. I will walk on a missile for food. I guess you would not want flowers for a few years, Lord. Will I be tied face to face with the country our murder merged with us, Lord? Our old metal versus new metal. I mean, our old metal versus pool of meandering imperialist faces of multiculturalism of sorts. The dead replaced me with a comedian's chest cavity instead of a chest cavity held tight. It takes a violent middleman for me to talk to myself. Stories that travel through other people's stories, you know, like a song about a song or a hemisphere about a hemisphere. Stories that travel through a conquered port. I mean, my mother remembers Africa, Lord. She killed on behalf of you, Lord. I wore a machete all winter and no one asked me what it meant. I read 1,000 books in front of the world. What I do is fight poems and sleep through decadent San Francisco prayer circles, watch people play for post-working class associate services or recreations of a governor's desk, ruling class auto utility plan, find a sociopathic bureaucrat today. Some white people scared even easier. TV in a basket next to a ceramic baby, wearing ceramic armor, musket progeny, fantasizing through the art of the porter. Their trendy latches locked before God, black art hunted down like a dog and hand over my friends, Lord. Lord, I think I'm gonna die in the war. I mean, unelected white people in my small house like a blues song of no spiritual effect, or a dollhouse X-File, or pony show near dead bodies, or apartheid weddings that go right, apartheid white people who give birth to mathematicians, the spiritual continuity of barracks and police stations, a chemical interpretation of a Sunday trip to church. I mean, church smells in their pockets, a river mistaken for a talking river, no autobiography outside of small personal victories of violence and drug use, made in the image of God's trinkets, where white abolitionists confided in their children about chemical assurances that they would switch from black artists to white artists, from black guy to white guy, from black worker to white worker. Man, I think about you cautiously, Lord. In the same way I think about my childhood, Lord. Hey, Foxhole Friday nights, most of life is mute. A comedian points out a planter's field to a priest, King Sugar Cane, King Cotton King, revolutionary to Bali Central. Containing all modes of shallow introduction, introducing an unlisted planet class speaking about fevers and balance sheets and reassuring the masses that we can figure out our fathers later. A priest took my mother lightly, Lord. Stood in front of parishioners rewrapping fantasies about black art. Priest reading confidently before I broke him and broke his parallel. You know, after the day I've never been a poet before. A little brother watches his big brother's friends. They leave rifles on shelter walls. They agree with me and call it literature. It's a simple matter, this revolution thing. To really lie to no one, to keep nothing godlike, to write a poem for God. You know, I had this dream. Planted dead the week that I was laid up in the hospital. You know, people kept coming into my room by the dozens, and each dozen had like special handshakes for each other and occasionally current dance moves, and they would kick my hospital bed from time to time to let me know that they'd be dancing from this hospital room on down to my grave, man. I mean, strange cha-chas, soft shoe shuffles, disco spins, like they were dancing for a white sundial, marking numbness in their feet, drum race ride. And I was ready to die because, you know, as the musician in the tunes after court, it's the surroundings themselves that is the uniform, but still, and I just couldn't bring myself like all the way visualized against God. One of them stood over me like a conductor, directing my heart to beat fainter and fainter, directing the tools to turn the fluids back, and I kept fading from consciousness with thud after thud on the legs of my bed as they danced wilder and wilder, wild but meek, or artificially meek, like an artificial pastor told them to be. Also be some kind of character or projection to be laid at their feet. You the only one participating in the revolution today. They mocked me, and I was ready to go because it's plenty of pianos that could use a new soul, and I'm sure gonna be in the revolution for as long as it takes. So you can punch me out now. I mean, I was born with 1 foot in the lion pit anyway. But man, check it out. No one bothered to ask the doctor if I was really dead. They was just too busy strutting, too busy kissing. Man, I just kept fading and fading. It was only enough breath and sweet consciousness to count their smiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I heard a voice, a whisper, and it was counted with me. 6, we said. 7, we said. 8. Then another voice joined us. 9, 10, and another, you see. I haven't been eating, Mama. I've been in a trance. I haven't been sleeping. I've been washing my face off the port of Charleston. There is blood on the fall. You know, these little societies, man, they wander together like hopeful drops of a virus. Citizen Testament is bent on offering me a nation of breadwinners to hold me back, like it's a Brinks. I rank with a concrete sometimes, like flesh. My Martin Luther King permanence, turned away from a podium into the reeds like God is dangerous, twin. I mean, Black August to the mountaintop balcony on my bedroom floor. You know, they steal you from the earth itself and suspend you in your broken neck from their foolish euphoria. From the loyalty over their gray superstitions, loyalty over their agrarian reform, I return to my mother completely disrespecting. For peeling the heat off of purgatory, they kill poets like me, walk me away from my poems never to be heard from again in this final industrial complex of bloodlines picked over, picked through a sporting spiritual death, or you devil at least half made. I mean, police become a pretty word. I'm reading a lynch mob shoestrings like they were tea leaves, teaching you how to write about cities. It's the 25th century in the mirror, people. Tyranny against your chump change, and you're a chump to be mocked even with a gun in your car. A cubit of needlework spell tuned for the proletariat, the relapse ministry. Time for people curled up in a fetal position next to a diamond dime. Just another surface day in the theatrics of tea-house fascism, in a bouquet of surveillance cameras, in the poverty of God, new blue eyes, courses of water, a newly potted presidency, and one big shiny corny fiasco animated capitalism and other non-literal voice, killing his white freedom, the deification of hyphens, medicine-branded picture shows, great protesters in LA, guests of our ink, drop kicking rolls in the graveyard. I'm in DC Mint like a stone torn in half, dependent advances, despite CIA guideposts, despite non-African past and futures, a metaphorical but not surreal day in the horn-ridden life horn player improvising king. And like a radio prize fight featuring Shango himself, a real hand sweeps the land of racism. And I return to the ground. I make progress with the gun on my mother. Man, they put on music that evening. A swinging tight body language for you to drink with fermented $5 bills for you. Body language, some applause. My past stomach lining, either a good thing or a bad thing, like being psychic on the way to a lethal injection. It'll sit you down with Lady Day. Lady Day leading youth who surrender their souls to Africa too soon. Poly thought floating in a cup of water, she saved me. Accessing my stomach, accessing the love of the American lynch. Cold sleeves willing avalanche into the wrist. I'm Mother Emmanuel, avalanche into the sharp keys. Pain. The deal you made with pain. The piano makes sense for them. Laying hands on the world gradually, addressing the bending necks on the streets of the north. Travel, sailing in pain, repeating pain. The Norte trigger fingers on that piano farm would have me, putting 100 fights on every direction off for the Lady Day. Leaning on trees again, recruiting the countryside itself, saying, lay the plan on this lightning. Make your poems a corner pocket of men. I greeted the blues itself. America may clean my dead body, but will never include me. There goes the poet. Killing without killing. Never mind this painting of your language. May I be a meaningful lynching. Poe's passing. Good and dead by the afternoon. Thank you.
Today is green.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's okay. That's all right. Again, thank you, Tongo. Okay, all right. Let's continue on. We got quite a few people, and we don't have much time, so I will ask you to please be brief in your reading, but I'd like to get everybody in. So next up, we have Sarah Menifee, Forbes, Daniel Brown, and Rob. Sarah is up next.
I'm going to pretend I'm not following that. It's beautiful to be here. So, right on my bus line. So, you know, when you had to sign in, I didn't realize it was open, but I brought something.
Good.
So, that's just a little commercial. I'll be brief. Next Saturday from 6 to 8 at the Black and Brown Social Club. Pick up a little flyer from the goodie table. It's an open mic, so just bring something. Okay, this is called Return. A dear old friend with his new fiancée came back to the city after years away. They panhandle every day. Oh, it's Spain, spare change. Down by the ferry building, pelicans sailing above. To get up, $45 for another night in the Tenderloin Motel. These nights are too cold to be out on the street, and I in my warm little room, too weak to go visit him and meet his new love. Yeah, I had one of those hospital experiences lately, oh boy, huh? Okay. Father, if I'd known how Eastern you were, my dear gone father, I'd have buried you in the ashes of catfish teeth that cloaked your grief in the far away you yearned. Rain. And the rain came down in sheets and sluiced every sleeper in the streets, down concrete, hill, and gutter, into the vast ocean. So at least they were now off the streets, and the streets clean again, thanks to a great wet Swiftian broom in an end of the year resolution. Thank you.
This is a highlighter. All right, next up, sure. Forbes is next.
Well, as we're in old Chinatown, I'll read a few old Chinatown poems. This one is called Chinatown Lust from 1978. Where are all the normal Chinese gay adult males in San Francisco? There must be some, but I can't find any. They blend into the landscape like San Francisco fog, discretion melded into invisibility. I met some ghostly Chinese youths, swishing arrogant maidens, faux slapping and acting the tart.
wanting to know on a first date your bank balance. What can you do with male coquetry? Not much. Normal gay Chinese men do not appear on regular radar, gaydar. They transmit it on an off-dial frequency. In Chinatown, with my antennae adjusted and well positioned, I turned in on the occasional vague signal while twiddling a knob. One tough, hair slicked back, spit in your face gangster guy stood sucking on his fag as his fag sucked on him, who looked as though he would sooner punch me out than say thank you, goodbye, see you around. The man looked up at me and he said, please don't come in my mouth. I'm a married man, I have children. Comfort food. I was looking for comfort food when the Chinese man gave me all his sweet and his sour. Now I live in Chinatown and have for 44 years. Gay Asians, San Francisco, 1979. The sign on the door of the gay bathhouse read, no perfumes, no Asians. I asked the man at the door, why no Asians? He exclaimed, are you fucking kidding me? I don't understand that part. The Chosen. 3 handsome young Chinese men, tanned in tennis whites, with rackets tucked, moving in Nijinsky choreographed forms with balls in the afternoon glade. They shall inherit the earth. Unhappy donuts, with my old-fashioned glazed gaze, sitting amongst Chinatown guys, loudly they pierce my ears. The one I had sex with last night will not look at me, cannot recognize my existence, for gambling with Guilo loses face. Chinatown love. I wish you were available and not married to a wife. I wish you liked me more and forced inroads in my life. The yin and yang of a tribute. Oh, Mr. Chi, I was most fond of thee, marking happily our days of great sex for 9 years upon the calendars. I've got it all marked down here, every day is marked. And then,
we'll do one more.
Okay. I read, fortune cookie advice. When in love, do not ask, do not tell. Keep your love under wraps. You will not regret it. Loneliness is your best companion.
Daniel Brown is next, and followed by Rob, and then Jean Alis. Welcome, Daniel.
Okay, let's go for a random one, and then I'll give you the line prepared. All right. We do things for many reasons. Some reasons are noble and others reprehensible. But until we go through the crucible of trial, we will never know what reasons are slag and what reasons are silver. And all right, this one's The Night is a Lie. The night is a lie. The night is a lie. A truth I realized with tear-stained eyes. He never came nigh the day kinsmen died, and the maw of the beast when it arrived to the feast. To the blood it spilt that day horrors my heart, for they will never sleep nor be at peace until the beast lay at my feet. That is why it needs be I must risk life and steed to slay the dragon that besieged kin, stranger, and me. Though the night is a lie, those I love lament why I commit the great sin, taking the place of him. They still believe that lie, not I, not I. I taketh up my sword, prayeth my shield stands true, my mind's eye pointed to the terrible task I must do. And today I ride to prove a legend or die. The night is a lie. The night was always a lie. He was never true, so named me must do. Thank you.
Rob is in the house. Rob has brought music.
Thank you, Greg. Every time I hear Tongo speak, I want to leave halfway through because I'll hear one line and I'll know that I want to live with that line for the rest of the day. Today it was, I need a violent middleman to talk to myself. This is a new song. It's called The Beating Goes On. A brother in the Oval, a black police chief in Birmingham, but the beating goes on. The beating goes on. Politicians offer a realistic timetable. What's that empty chair at the holiday table? The beating goes on. The beating goes on. White kids want to be like Mike, got those posters of LeBron. But still the beating goes on and on and on. The suburbs hold MLK in a sacred place. And it because he won't punch them in the face. The beating goes on. The beating goes on. The march up the mountain struggles to get traction. No reparations, just affirmative inaction. The beating goes on. The beating goes on. Generational trauma, systemic plunder, echoing in the alleys. I hear Malcolm's thunder. White liberals, how they sigh and cry. They'll give you pound cake, but never a piece of the pie. And the beating goes on. The beating goes on. White kids know every hip-hop song. White kids say, why can't we get along? The beating goes on. The beating goes on. Brother in the Oval, a black police chief in Birmingham. The beating goes on. The beating goes right in space?
Maybe. Dean is next. All right. Then after Dean, I think Claire is gone, but Karen, Miranda Magoon, and then Becca. Dean.
Okay. Good day, scholars. Today I'll read a poem titled "Let Me See You Smile in the Rain." It's essentially a love song, both to the world, the universe, and change. Let me see you smile in the rain. Through bloodshed, war, genocide, and pain. Let me see you smile in the rain. Death and evolution grant us both a shared glare. Death and evolution, this burden we both bear. But still, let me see you smile in the rain. Shall we walk through grasslands, green with guns, and fields of rotting roses, residing in a world full of entropy, in the settlement of stern instability? But still, let me see you prevail over these pains. Let me see you smile in the rain. But with indefinitely more opportunities than others, how may I smile? Once, even still, I question, how is this world so vile? From the salt slaves of Siberia to the Turkish children now without any parents, from the sex slaves of Singapore to the children in Peru who just yearn to learn. Let me see you smile in the rain. From the destitute Venezuelan man to the ignorant American people, let me see you smile in the rain. From the blind Ukrainian man bloodied by war and battle to the Russian boy who enlists in the army to become a man only to lose the genitalia by which biologically define him as one. Let me see you smile in the rain. Watch me fall and watch me become free. Let me see you smile in the rain. When change comes, tell them that they are too late. Tell them of all I have lost, the billions of lives, the billions of opportunities. Tell them all by which they have wrought upon me. Tell them all that they have forgotten about me. Tell them all I have lost. Tell them that their absence left the already dilapidated, destitute, the already dying, dead, and the once delighted, now forever distraught. Tell them my losses, all of our losses, come from their absence. But most importantly, tell change that we must forgive them. Tell them that I wish for them to fall into my arms. Tell change whenever, wherever, we are awaiting their acquaintance, waiting for them to emerge from this darkness. Let change and I fall into the rain together. Give them my hand and let us waltz under the rain. And even still, in the wake of water, let me see you smile in the rain. Gray skies dissipate at the presence of change's smile. And music lies not necessary when there is music in mind. Yet peaceful is night, when your many pieces bring me peace. Let me see you smile in the rain. For now, it is time for reconstructing, rebuilding, and re-engineering. For we are the reconstructors, the rebuilders, and the re-engineers. Let us sing, let us dance, let us cry, and let us fall. Only so that we may reform. For we are reform. Let me see you smile in the rain. Let me see you smile in the rain. Thank you.
Yeah, don't forget to get I'm Greg.
Nice to meet you.
All right.
Thank
you,
you.
Dean. All right. Next up is Karen. Karen Miranda Magoon. And then, unless we have anyone else who did not, Becca will be the closer.
see you smile. In the rain. Okay. I'm going to be pretty brief. A patch of light. This is from my book, A Forest of Words. A patch of light upon the window, reflected in adjacent corners, reminds me of the agile fingers of the sun, able to reach into my living room and paint its walls with light, creating geometric parallelograms. Stacks of light painted by the sun, while across the street the sun paints vast swatches of light, creating upon her play upon cables, on poles and passers-by, on shadows of the city. Light and shadow dance in streets and homes, shade or light in cardboard and quilts, gathered by urban refugees seeking refuge in the forests of the city, alleyways and curbs, tents and corridors, sometimes the corridors of their own homes from which they have been evicted. The sun touches all with its democratic wisdom, casting light and shadows with random equity, as do its partners rain and wind, curling around and over and through democratic prepositions of place, positioned among young and old, refugees of the streets, who have learned to accept and greet patches of light in a shadow world. And this is very brief, sort of we're not in fall right now, but we know what it's like. A leaf curls. A leaf curls on a hanging limb, speaking to me softly of the moon. Seeds fly aimlessly, while acorns nest. Time curls into a chestnut resting at our feet. Our fingers trace the silence as birdsong paints the air, and stones begin to blossom, remembering spring.
And Becca, I believe, is our last reader of the afternoon.
I haven't performed in 10 years, and I had not planned on doing it today. Today I yelled at Libby Schaff, the commander-in-chief of OPD, best buddy of corporate developer greed, democracy bypasser, fake smiling dictator of this revolutionary city. For 2 minutes and barely that, I yelled at our mayor, Libby Schaff. I yelled with pride. I yelled through tears. I yelled and felt relief, reliving hands of police throwing me down. My crime? Taking out my phone to film as officers slammed a woman to the ground. Her crime? Marching peacefully after Breonna Taylor's murderers walked free. Breonna 10 feet underground. I yelled at our mayor while a mile away, people sell their bodies to make ends meet and children work as sex slaves next to a Libbyville of pallets and tents as housing sits empty, while the sick, children, and elderly live on curbsides and under freeways because they couldn't pay the damn high rent. I yelled at Libby on a lonely land, stolen, pillaged, and sold, yet to be returned, as fires, drought, and heat threaten our very humanity. I yelled at her as fierce as her sergeant yelled, "Sidewalk!" at me in 2020, as another smashed the protester's head against a car. I could do nothing but watch through the haze of smoke grenades, adrenaline in my veins, anger simmering. Now it's boiled over, and it won't stop until you, Libby, lower the heat. Until you house the unhoused with housing, not garden sheds, which did happen, so that no more are pushed to the streets. Until you defund police and refund basic needs, housing, education, healthcare, and youth, preventing violence by addressing poverty. Until you work for us and not your friends with pockets so deep they fit you snugly inside, along with your neo-Libby corporate ties, your warm, fuzzy nonprofits, and their contracts you tried to hide. True story.
Dear Libby, my fellow Jew, don't you know what your tradition commands of you? Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue. And yet you stoke division and hate, tools of the state. Your ancestors are looking down ashamed of you. Today I yelled at Libby Schaff, yet Libby didn't hear me because of course she had somewhere else to be than listening to her constituency, but instead of angry, I feel relieved that others came to yell at her too. I'm not alone and have a newfound community of others who believe in cross-racial solidarity, that power is with the people. We keep us safe and none of us are free till we're all free. Thank you.
Thank you all. Wow. I since I'm a poet, I guess I'll share one of mine. Black like me, and begins with an epigram. How is it right that I still have to fight for my civil rights, because my skin ain't white? Trapped in a racist maze that saps my daily energy, I try to navigate between heaven, hell, and purgatory, but find that I am easy bait for the devil in the blue-eyed sea. I could drown in the same waves that took my ancestors deep. I weep at night, hearing their cries and nightmares that unrest my sleep, realizing those lucky to stay alive until they got to the West Atlantic side had none of their possessions except for the skin of their lives. Only to find centuries down the line, it's a struggle just to survive in a country where I still ain't free, where doors are still closed and I'm always opposed when I command equality. They don't want me to vote. They don't want me to breathe. They won't let me move my neck from under their knee. Can't make enough money to support my family, still treated like #1 menace to society. Though in the face of all that's been done to impede, I continue to try, strive, and believe, to work hard each day in search of Martin's dream. But I fear my own vulnerability, that they don't one day shoot to kill while I'm living black like me. Thank you all for coming to this inaugural third Chinatown. We'll be doing this the third Saturday of every month. March 18th will be the next time, and we will have John Curl, and we will have Manaz Badihian as features. There will be an open mic, 1 o'clock till 3 or thereabouts. So please come, and I will bring more pens and maybe some pads or some other trinkets and toys and stuff. And thank you all. Did you have something?
Yeah, I was wondering, how do you guys pay the rent? Do you want us to give you a donation? I was wondering about that while the poets were reading. Do you need donations so you can pay the rent and the electricity?
Yes, donations absolutely welcome, because we are a non-profit organization, so we depend on your donation and also the government's donation. But anything would be fantastic. I have a little donation box here, and just drop in $1 or so. It would be really, really appreciated. And I have the flyers for next month's reading. So on the way out, please take one, tell your friends, and come back.
Right, March 18th. Thank you all so much. Stay well. I'll see you back next March.
Thank you.
Special
Special thanks to Clara and Clarion.
I love your phone. It's so lovely. The porridge.